I've extracted the nose wheel hardware, and while it's out, I'll give you a closer look at it. All right, so there's two wood standoffs there to give it the proper clearance. Inside, there's a servo mount, space for the wire, comes through the back here. It's a standard nose gear setup with a control arm, connecting rod, servo arm. There's a servo mount. Now inside, you see the 4 screws. These are 440 machine screws, socket head, and they come through these blocks of wood here and attached to the nose gear bay through these holes. Now there's lock nuts on the other side of the holes. Let's see what we can see here. There we go. There's the lock nuts. That is on the cockpit floor where the batteries go. And I believe they're 1 1/4 inch screws, although at this time, frankly, I've forgotten how long they are. I'm not going to take them out and measure them. So, here's what happened. I took the servo out. Before clipping any wires, I did a test on it, and unlike its brother elevator servo, this one is operable. So, I took it over to the wiring harness, pulled everything out, clipped off the wire ties that were holding the wiring bundle together, and tested everything out, and it worked. So I'm a little bit flummoxed as to why it wasn't working before. What I can say, just as an observation, is these wires are all from my spares box. And I actually don't know about the efficacy of these wires. Some of them are new, and now I've lost track of which ones are which, but some of them were used. So maybe I've got a problem with the Y connector. I don't know. So one thing I will say is that whoever ends up flying this aircraft will need to change out all these servos and put in good, reliable servos. I had to go with the cheapy brand because, quite frankly, I simply ran out of money for this project. So in order to get it all working, I went with the least expensive servos I could get. I definitely never intend to fly with those servos. All right. Well, let's carry on with getting this nose gear and servo arrangement put back together and reinstalled into the nose gear bay. Have successfully reinstalled the nose gear and the elevator. Servo hooked everything back up again. I've got the radio here. Let's try out that elevator. Up, down. Looking good. Okay, now the rudder. Okay, right rudder, neutral, left rudder. We're good. Okay, and there's the hinge action. Which pivots about 3/4 of an inch back from the trailing edge of the vertical stabilizer. Same thing as with the elevators. It's held together by 440 screws and lock nuts, which are the hinge pivots. Okay, now let's take a look at nose gear steering. Here is right, neutral, left, Okay, so now, finally, we have full operation of the radio systems. Next, it'll be time to tidy up these wires again and put some more wire wraps on them to make them into cable bundles, and then retest the systems. If everything's a go, then and I'll reassemble the aircraft. All right, here we are after the wing has been reattached. This is after the nose gear has been checked and the servo replaced on the right-hand elevator back here. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is install the video camera. See my finger right there through the window? Okay, so I've got a Mobius action camera. That's the bay for it. And you probably see there's a bit of a cutout on each side, and that's so my fingers can grab a hold of the camera, you know, kind of a pincer. Okay, so I have the camera over here. Okay, it's very small, fairly basic, and I've cut 2 pieces of this foam from a larger sheet. Use a pair of scissors. This is just packing foam, about 1/8 inch thick. All right, so now the camera has power port and space for an SD card, a mini SD card. And let's open up the box here. Okay, packing material. The camera actually came in this plastic bag. Here's a mount for a camera, tripod, the charging cord, USB charging cord, and a sticker with some download the latest software at that address. All right, so we've got a lens cover, and I'm going to keep that on. There's the lens. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep the lens cover on the camera just to keep it from getting dirty while I show this. Now, a little unfortunate story. I bought this new back in 2016 and never operated it. Didn't ever check it out. Never realizing that the lithium polymer batteries would die. Okay, so this thing has a dead battery. And I've tried to buy a replacement battery for it. I've taken it apart and looked at it. So, you know, it's fairly easy to do. But unfortunately, supply has gotten so dubious. I ordered one battery off of eBay, and it never arrived. And the seller gave me a refund, but nevertheless. So what I figure is, I've forgotten what voltage it is, but I would get a different battery and mount it externally and use a plug. All right, so the lens has to go in facing this direction. Now, I don't know if this is going to work. All right, so let's just take the camera itself. There we go. So in theory here, you just turn on the camera when you're ready and stick it down in its slot, and unless you're doing inverted maneuvers, it should stay here. So I wanted to pad it up. It looks like I can fit that padding quite easily on one side. And my hand's going to be in the way. All right. I can kind of squeeze that in, but all right, so for now, let's just say that an 1/8 inch thick is too thick. So I'm going to have to figure out a way of padding. Maybe I glue the padding onto the balsa walls there and slide the camera in and out. That would probably be the best thing. All right, so pull the camera back out. Take the padding out first. And my hand's in the way, but you have to tilt the camera slightly to the rear in order, so you're putting it in at an angle, and when you take it out, you also have to lift it up and then change the angle in order to be able to take it out. And that's to get it to clear that balsa wood bulkhead. All right, so that's how the camera is installed. And this is a downward looking camera, so it can watch the bombs drop. My idea was to use hula hoops painted white on the ground. They hopefully the camera would pick that up, and then as the bombs drop down, these guys are plastic bombs. When they squeeze on impact, they break open, and if you load these with flour, they're heavier, they track straighter, and they make a nice poof on impact. Now, of course, you're going to get a set number of lives out of each bomb, because eventually the fins will break off, or these tabs will break off, or, you know, you're doing a high velocity impact. So, but the goal was to put the bombs onto the target and record that event, just like the World War II combat footage. Okay, so we need to move on to the next step in preparations. The rear canopy and the overwing deck have been reinstalled, and now we're going to put the batteries in. So we've got leads coming out here, and there's tags on the leads. So this is for the left motor, and this one is for the right. Okay. So let me see. I'm gonna flip those around here. There we go. All right, so I have two 2200 milliamp batteries. These are 3 cells, and I have them labeled on the power cord A and B. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so the way these batteries get installed is directly through the front. Let's see. All right, so I've got a piece of Velcro right there on either side, and there's also a piece of Velcro right here and also on the other side. So basically I need to see which way these batteries need to fit. All right, so I want the power cord facing towards the front. So let's stick this guy in here, and let's see, I've got the screws from the nose gear assembly are sticking up a little bit, and I've already got it stuck. There we go. Okay, so I want it to be standing up. Or do I? Okay, maybe laying down's the way to go. All right, so I've got the, oops, there we go. All right, this is where the instrument panel would be. And so the battery has to be laying down on its side. I need to detach to get, there we go. Okay. There we go. I've got the Velcro holding it in. All right, so now let's wrestle in the second one. All right, so the battery wire is facing forward and it's laying on its side. So we have that on the inside. All right, so let's do that. All right. That was a lot easier than the first one. Part of the thing about not dealing with the model for a while is you got to remember how to redo its systems. All right, so here's the battery leads. I'm going to pass these forward. Let's see. There we go. There's one. Okay. And there's kind of a feel here. There we go. All right. Now that the batteries are installed, I can take the gun nose and put it back on. You see the magnets just snapped it into place. And when I'm ready, come over here and pick up the forward cockpit. There we go. So all I have to do is lift this off, plug in the batteries now, and that will energize the systems and she'll be ready to go. All right, we have a root cord here of 11.5 inches. The aircraft balanced at 2 1/4 inches from the leading edge. So that's 19.5% of the cord right there. And if you look at this wing, it gets very narrow. So let's see if we can get a So 2 1/4 inches at the root is 19%. I haven't calculated what it is for the tip, but that should be in the area that the center of gravity needs to be. And that's also according to some of the engineering drawings. So, all right. Now I've got the easy connector and the connecting rod here. On the innermost hole on the control arm coming off the servo. So that shortens the throw distance quite a bit, but it wasn't enough. I was running into binding on both the forward and back motion. So what I did to give myself the leverage I needed was to move the connection to the bomb release devices to the front instead of the back. And I built myself a bell crank off of an old servo arm. All right, so there's 2 easy connectors there. One of them goes to the servo, the outer one. The inner one goes to the bomb release device. Down here be a clevis. And then the rear horn on the bomb release device in the front connects to the front horn on the bomb release device in the rear. And we have a complete setup. So I also worked out the the control throws, there's still binding on one end. I mean, the amount of movement necessary to release this, to activate the release is very, very tiny, a 1/16 of an inch maybe. And on my simple radio here, there is no throw adjustment. So there we go. Okay, so before I activate the device, I've already preloaded the bombs into the bomb bay. I'll do that again, but before we wonder what all the clattering is all about, I wanted to show that to you. Okay, so let me pull the radio over. Okay, we're going to take a look at the servo here. Yeah, I'm going to come in close to it. Okay, now watch the throw on the servo. Okay, there we go. You can hear the binding a little bit. Notice how little movement there is over here on this clevis. I'm going to activate this a couple more times. Check this. Let's see, I'd like to get to both the servo arm and that clevis in the same. There we go. All right, so a little bit of binding shouldn't hurt, hopefully. Although I wouldn't put it past these really cheap servos to strip a gear again, but at least here, it's not under such load all the time. There's no load in the capture position for the bomb release devices. Okay, so I'm going to activate that again so you can see the bell crank operation. You see there's not much movement there. Okay, so you have to open it up to attach the bombs. I'm backing off here, and I really don't want to be doing this one-handed. Yep. All right, so the bomb release devices are currently in the open position. Let's see. Doesn't take much movement. All right, so I'm going to load the bombs back up again. Yeah, here we go. One of them's on the floor. All right, so these snap together. Now, in the old days, with the Vortac bombs, I'd load these things up with some flour. And I haven't tested these new atom bombs to see if they'll stay shut with the flour load. Okay, so these little pegs on the bomb need to line up. Let me see. This is not that easy to see. All right, now. All right, I'm having a difficult time lining that up. And mostly it's because I'm holding a camera in one hand. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's in. Let's get the second one in. All right, that's seated down. Now I'm gonna, there we go. Okay. Well, that wasn't in place. Okay, there we go. Both the bombs are in place. Okay, when I've got two hands to load the bombs and I'm not holding a camera, it'll be a lot more graceful. All right, so there's the bomb release, or the bomb bay with bombs in it. Now let me turn the plane back over again. All right, so bombs there. So I'm going to hit the release button. And there we go. All right, so all we need to do now is load in that camera so we can take pictures through that little window of the bombs dropping onto the target. All right, so that's the final function of this A-20. Take a look at it on the bench there. So I'm going to put it all back together again, and this concludes the systems check. It was quite a ride. It hasn't been worked on for a couple of years, and things went wrong, but that gave a good opportunity to go over the systems and check everything and make sure it all works.